All right, so I guess I should introduce Bob. So this is Bob Hendriksen. You guys have seen him before, and now he's going to do some things that are going to change your life.
The setup. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm going to start with a suggestion. So if you're about to speak in front of 200 people, don't ever ride shotgun with Paul Akers, because he'll blow up your presentation just before you got to deliver it. So we're going with his suggestions anyway, but who has downloaded a list manager of some sort? Everybody? Wunderlist, To-Do, something else? Good. Okay. We'll need that. All right, here we go. So today is not going to be a keynote. This is going to be the most compressed workshop I've ever done. 40 minutes. And basically, the desired outcome is to set you up with a basic GTD system in your list manager. Okay, now your workflow will include your calendar, your email, analog folders, notebook, things like that. But kind of at the heart of it is some tool to track commitments. So one of the things that we found at Steelcase is that we believe that the root cause of stress, how many of you experience stress from time to time? What do you think the root cause is? Marriage?
We have 9,423,000 things to do.
Too many things to do, right? I'd say that's a symptom. I'd say marriage is a symptom. Money. Lack of time. So too much to do, not enough time. We would say the root cause is mismanaged commitments. The root cause of stress is mismanaged commitments. Commitments to other people, commitments to yourself. Every time you walk through the garage and you say, I need to organize my garage, every improvement opportunity that you see. So what I'm going to share with you is a way to set up a system to manage your commitments like a ninja. All right? This will be just a start, and you'll continuously improve and build on this forever, actually, as you learn this. So that's the why. Okay, I'm going to start with a few definitions, and then we'll jump right into it. So the first definition is a very technical term David came up with called stuff. All right, stuff is anything that's out there in your mind, in your email, whatever, that is undefined, incomplete, or otherwise stuck. Okay, so this year's taxes is currently in stuck mode unless you have steps defined to get your taxes done by the middle of April. Make sense? Stuff. Next term is a desired outcome. So desired outcome is, simply put, what done looks like. What would need to be true for you to be able to say this thing is complete? Next term is very, very important, and it's the term next action. So next action is defined as the very next physical, visible action to move towards your desired outcome. So is do my taxes a next action? No. Do my taxes is the next thing up there, a project, right? Because it's more than one action step. So anything with more than one next action is a project. And the last term is context. So context means the situation you're in. Many times it's the place that you're in, but it could mean other things. The situation you're in when you go to take action. Okay, so these terms are important as we go to build out our system. All right? A reminder of the 5 steps that we're going to be going through. So the first is capture, then process, then organize, review, and do. I think the new book has collect, clarify, organized, review, and engage. It's the same process. And then when you go to process, you use a processing workflow. This is the workflow. Now, when I taught this to Paul, I said, Paul, you're processing all. Where is Paul? Out there. So I'm going to give him a hard time. I said, Paul, you're processing over all the time. That's over-processing, right? You're not focused, you're not in the moment. I said, you need to process about as many times as you go to the bathroom a day, 3-4 times a day. So now he's out teaching people all over the world, right, Hugh? Yep. That you need to process what? While you're in the bathroom. He totally missed it. I said about as many times, not when you're in the bathroom. Are we clear on that one? Everybody, about 3-4 times a day. So it is a form of batching, but it's good batching because what it enables is it enables tremendous focus. Okay, so this is the processing workflow. It's basically a decision tree. You're asking yourself that anything that you've captured into your inbox, you're asking yourself a series of questions. What is it? Is it actionable? There's only 2 answers, yes or no. There's no maybe. So if you have the habit of mark unread for email, does anybody do that? You're not sure what to do, mark unread. The next time you do that, I want you to imagine you've just got your mail from the mailbox. You're walking in the house with it, and you're going through your mail. Do you guys do that? I do that. And you open something, and you're not quite sure what to do with it. So you walk back out to the mailbox, and you put it back in there for the mailman to decide what to do about it. You would never do that. That's what mark unread is. So we want to force ourselves to make decisions on things when they show up, not when they blow up. So 2 choices, yes or no. If no, you delete it, or you file it as reference, or maybe you put it on a list called someday maybe. And we're going to build all this out. Your yes options, the first option is just do it. We are not trying to make you a crazy list maker. Let me say that again. The intent of GTD is not about the lists. A lot of GTD is to make us more action-oriented. So your first option for anything that is actionable is just do it. And David has set up this 2-minute rule. So if you can do it in 2 minutes or less, that's kind of the threshold of it's not worth tracking it if you can just get it out of your hair. That's the quick response to an email. Next option is to delegate it to someone else. If you delegate it, it's important to track the things that you've delegated, those commitments that you've passed off to other people. So there's a list for that called waiting for. Another list for that is a one-on-one if you have a regularly scheduled one-on-one with someone. And then your last option is to defer it, which means work at it at a better time. Work on it sometime in the future. And there's a handful of lists based on context for that. Sound good? All right, let's set up a system. So go into your list manager of choice. And maybe it looks like this. This is just a blank canvas wonder list. And we're going to do a little exercise. So open your inbox, right? So it should be at the top. I think if you're using the to-do app, it's called to-do? Tasks. It should be at the top. Open that, and we're going to do an exercise that is called a mind sweep or a mind clearing exercise, okay? And we're going to do it for about 3 minutes, total silence, and I want you to capture anything and everything that may be worth follow through from this summit. So this summit would be the 8th waste if we did nothing with it, true? So we want to drive some action based on this. So I want you to capture everything, big, small, now, near, far, from this summit in the next 3 minutes, 1 item per line into your inbox. And go. right, 3 minutes. How do you feel? Awesome. Depressed and awesome. Okay. Let's go with the depressed first. Who said depressed? Yes. Oh, stressed. How come? How many? 20? Anybody beat 20?
I have probably close to 20.
Okay. All right. 11. Oh, Paul's back. Paul's back. You feel great. Why?
Great, because I don't have anything on my mind.
Nothing on my mind.
Everything's dialed in.
Right. Or at least captured. And Paul, when you since you're back, when you go to process, where do you process?
I process every 2 hours, so are you asking a specific place?
Yeah.
Well, I process when it's quiet for me, away from people. What room in your house is that? Oh, the bathroom?
I told them all that I told you process as many times as you go to the bathroom, and you taught Hugh to process in the bathroom.
I didn't know that you could set me up.
I will not live that down.
Hey, Bob, we all know the clean starts in the bathroom.
Right, yes, good point. Okay, so yeah, the feeling of overwhelm when you can see all your commitments. So I listed 11 things or 12 things that were takeaways for me. So just random mind dump of my own. So it's just a hodgepodge of follow-up items that I had scribbled down. So yeah, it can be stressful when you see your commitments. So that's why we need to build a trusted system so we can take action on some of the items and park some of the items elsewhere. Okay? So now we're going to build out your lists. So these things on the left are called lists. Okay? Not folders, lists that map to the GTD workflow. Make sense? So the things that you saw on this diagram, we're going to build you at least a basic structure that matches that. Now, when Paul was learning this, he was taking it in and making notes and all this, and finally at one point you did what?
I acquiesced and did it your way?
He handed me his phone and he said, just set the damn thing up.
It was too confusing for me in the beginning, so Bob just did it for me at the airport. It was brilliant.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So let's create some lists. So whatever tool you're using, there should be a button that says create a new list. All right, everybody with me? You know where the button is? Create list.
Very bottom, right?
Yeah, on Wunderlist, it's bottom left, create list. Okay, so the first list I want you to create is called projects. Everybody good? Got a project list? Now, once you get into this, you may separate into work projects and home projects, but let's keep it simple for now. Okay, next list you'll need is some list for when you're at your desk or at your computer. I'm a mobile worker, so I don't really have a desk that I'm at regularly because I'm all over the place. So mine I call at computer. You could call it at your office. Okay? All right, you're going to want one called at home.
Is this a sub of the projects?
Nope, they're separate lists. So you have a project list, and then we're creating some context. All right? So again, context means the situation you're in when you go to take action. Yours will be unique to you, but I'm gonna set you up with some basic ones. And then you'll have to think about your day in the life, and you may find gaps that, hey, I'm always in the engineering department. That's a context for you. I'll just give you the basics.
Can I interrupt for 1 minute?
Of course.
This all changed for me when I saw Bob do it.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, managing by context is different than we naturally think. We naturally associate things with a given project. Everything connected to the bathroom remodel or the project at work that we're trying to do, we want to list all the tasks associated with that. The problem is you'll drive by Lowe's 10 times before you pull in and buy the nails you need for the bathroom remodel project, right? So the way Paul does it, the way I do it, Tim and Al, is we have a list called In the Car, and we'll code it with Lowe's, or maybe you have a list for Lowe's. That's a context. Game changer. Okay, so let's do that one. In the car, or you can call it errands. Create a list, in the car. Okay, next up, you need a list called waiting for. Waiting for is a list where you track anything that you've delegated to someone else. If you need to. If you trust the system of the person you delegated to so much because they're doing GTD, maybe you don't have to, but for a while, it makes sense to track the things you've delegated. Make sure they get done. Okay? That's what waiting for is for. You also need a list called Someday Maybe. Very important list. So if you go back to the workflow, Someday Maybe is on the bottom right there. It's for items that you've chosen not to take action on. You're making the choice not to take action on, but you don't want it crawling back up into your head. Remember, GTD, the number one principle is that your mind is for having ideas, not for holding them. Your mind is for creativity, innovation, problem solving, not for tracking, not as a file cabinet. Someday Maybe list, very important. Okay, most of you in this room are doing a morning meeting of some sort, right? So I would encourage you to make a list called morning meeting or stand-up meeting. Morning meeting topics. Okay. Everybody caught up? Now, I'm going to give you a couple minutes to you can pull out your calendar or just think about your typical day in the life and see if there are other contexts that you'd want to set up. Again, we're not trying to set you up with 100, but a handful of context-based action lists. All right? So think about the different contexts you're in. Everyone is slightly different. Good? All right. And I'll tell you, it'll take a while for your list to stabilize and map to your thinking and your environment, but once it dials in, it'll be an extension of your brain, and it'll just work. You got to trust me on this one. Also, we get asked, when Tim and I teach this class, we get asked, we're at work, why are you teaching us to create an at-home list and an in-the-car list, Do items come to mind only at work when you're at work, only at home when you're at home? No. Your mind doesn't care where you are when it has the great idea, right? So having one system for everything you're trying to do. Remember, the epiphany was that continuous improvement is all about getting things done, moving from here to a better state, a future state. So you got to manage it all in one place is the best way to do it. Okay, so now that I've got my setup, I'm going to show you how I go through and process these 12 random things using GTD. So my first item here is how to get frontline team members more involved in tours. A lot of our tours, whether it be benchmarking or customer tours, it's too many leaders taking them around. What I saw today was great because great engagement from the team members. So I sit here and I think about it. Is that actionable, yes or no? Yeah, it is actionable. I set up a couple other categories. One of them is a one-on-one with Tim, which we do every week. He's my lean guy. So I'm going to discuss that with him. I don't have an answer to it, but I'm going to put it on my one-on-one with Tim. Add gratefuls to daily stand-up at one location. So that's not something that we do, but I think Al's plant would be totally up for running the experiment there. So I'm going to discuss that with Al. So I'm going to drag that to the one-on-one with Al list. I want to connect Meg from Cambridge with Tracy, who's our director of HR. I'm probably going to do that with an email, so I'm going to do that at my computer, drag that in there. I loved the video board with a number of videos that we saw at Fireblast. I'm going to talk with Charlie about that, so one-on-one with Charlie, which I do have a regularly scheduled one-on-one with him. So that's another context. Just drag and drop, drag and drop. Reconsider using Fastenal for our, yes.
How does that work on your phone?
Okay, so it's dependent on the device you're doing it on. If you're on an iPhone, you hold on the item and it'll show up at the top, move to list, and you drag it up there and then all your lists show up. Okay? Another little pro tip for you, capture on your phone, process on your laptop or other device, because you're only processing a few times a day, unless you're doing it in the bathroom and then do it on your phone.
I don't use a computer.
You do it all on your phone?
Everything on my phone.
Yep.
Lucas loves on the computer, right?
Yeah, because you can drag and drop like this.
Just for the record, Bob said Al and Tim were doing this. No. Lauren, Lucas, Peter, all of our people do it. Our entire company does it because of Bob.
Okay, so this next one, reconsider use of Fastenal. I'm going to put that in my someday maybe. Okay, the next ones are consider hosting future global leadership. That's going in someday maybe because I know that you guys have like the next 4 venues lined up already. Is that right? So I just don't have the capacity to even consider that now, but maybe in the future.
Bob, can I add something too?
Yeah.
If you're doing it on the computer, I've found that you can do it either on your web browser or as an app you can download on the computer, and the web browser seems to work way better.
Yeah. So for those that didn't hear that, we would strongly agree. So you can run the app on a PC, but we encourage you, like I'm running it in Google Chrome right now. It runs great, and it gets all the updates. And I'm assuming that To-Do will be the same. Okay, next items. Figure out who to take to the next summit in Ireland, and tell my boss. Note it doesn't say ask my boss. So I'm going to put that probably on my at computer list. All right. Write everyone I got business cards from. And let's do a project. So here's how projects work. This is a little bit, this throws people. So I want to be super clear, and Tim or or anybody chime in on this if I'm not. So the project list is only for listing the name of the project. Okay? Only the name of the project goes on the project list. Make sense? And then where do the actions go? On the context list. Okay?
I'd add, when you name the project in the project list, state it as the desired outcome. So what is it that you want to be true when the project's done?
So Tim said, when you name the project, name it the desired outcome. And we said that desired outcome is what you want to be true to call it done. So if I'm going to do a project called the follow-up from the Global Lean Leadership Summit, what would wild success look like? So something like key insights from GLLS are deployed through the organization. That's a project. It's multi-step. Right? The other thing I'm going to do in this tool is I'm going to pick a keyword and I'm going to throw a hashtag in front of it. So I picked GLLS, hashtag. Do you see what it did? Made it into a hyperlink. Okay? Now, where did I say that you manage the tasks, the next actions associated with this? On the context list. So just because I have a project and a desired outcome, am I done? No. I need to think about what the next action steps are. Okay? So here's one. Talk with Al about presenting highlights. That's an action step from hashtag GLLS. So that's one. That goes in my one-on-one with Al. Prepare net out. Hashtag GLLS. And that's going to be done on my computer. And the last item, talked to Tim about the quick changeover in core. That was from GLLS. And you will see, and I'm going to put that in my one-on-one with Tim. You will see that when I go to my project list and I click on the hyperlink, I see all the associated actions that are on the context-based list. One-on-one with Tim, one-on-one with Al, if I had stuff at the computer, in the car, wherever. Everybody follow that? Okay. So what was follow-through from the summit? It was a project, right? Why?
It had
More than one action step. So the project name goes where? On the project list. The actions go on your context list, and you link them together with the hashtag. Now he gets it. Questions? Yes, Lucas.
All right, so when you have a project, you have multiple action items, but some of them are waiting on other items. How do you distinguish that on your action list as something that can't be done yet?
I put it on my waiting for list. Okay. So the question was, if you have dependencies and you're waiting on someone to do something before you can do your next action, goes on the waiting for list. You can also set dates on any of these actions. You could set dates on the date on the project. So organizing this event for Angel and Rick was a massive project with hundreds of next actions. But each of them should have had on their project list the GLLS Summit was a wow for all 200 participants or whatever. Whatever the desired outcome, what does wild success look like, would have gone on the project list. And then all those next actions, all the things you do at the computer, phone calls to make, things you do in the car, all those little details are linked to the project with some hashtagged item. within the project name. Make sense?
Just to clarify, the hashtag, you put that in the project and then each of the tasks.
Correct.
That's what gets you all of them done. So you're not using a folder for projects then, where you can check things off underneath it?
So the question is using a folder. So this is how folders work in Wunderlist. So these items, these lists are all one-on-ones. So if I take a list and drag it on top of another list, I can name it one-on-ones. And that allows me to collapse into a shorter list. But what we don't use is we don't use the subtasks. So if you open an item in Wunderlist, it gives you the opportunity for subtasks. Why do you think we don't use subtasks? Because it hides the items, it buries them, and it blows context. You can't do the hashtag thing with subtasks. Okay?
Bob, do you add notes as well, or do you just pretty much the actual?
Yeah, we'll add notes and things like that. The last thing I wanted to show you is for commitment management for teams. We have one here, morning meeting topics. So if you click on the list itself, you can add people to the list. So you put their email in. If they're in Wunderlist, they get a notification asking if they want to accept the invitation. And so what we run at Steelcase is each team has a shared list for commitments. So that's where we track our commitments. We've got a screen running Wunderlist in each of our team spaces, and that's our accountability board. So on the same tool, I can see all the things I'm on the hook for with my team, all the commitments I've made to my boss that are assigned to me and a due date, as well as, milk that I got to buy at the store in the car list, all in the same place. So remember what I said at the beginning, the root cause of stress is mismanaged commitments. Imagine if your commitments were all managed in this way. All in one place, super clear. All right. One other thing we need to do real quick, create one more list called Weekly Review Checklist. So your system, no matter how much work you put into setting it up, getting everything into it, it will unravel in a couple weeks if you don't do this next process. This next process is the way that you guard against entropy. Okay? Entropy means anything that's in a state of order starts moving towards chaos, unless greater force is applied, the weekly review. So the weekly review is a process that you do for, say, an hour once a week. Put it on your calendar, and every week you go through and you kind of get your act together after drinking from the fire hose all week. So here's an agenda for the weekly review. So put this in. Step 1, mind sweep into inbox. So that just means take a few minutes and see what's on your mind that should be in your system. Okay, step 2, review calendar.
Why into the inbox and not straight into one of the categories below?
Yeah, so great question. So the question is, why do you capture into your inbox and not directly into a list? If something's very simple and obvious, go right into the list. If you need to buy spinach, put it in the list. But the danger with skipping the inbox is there may be more thinking needed to clarify what, if anything, you're going to do. So that step of looking at it, you could call it double handling, but for me, it's often the time that I clarify the item before moving it. Make sense? Because things go into your inbox in the raw form. Okay, next up is review the calendar. Backward 1 week and forward 2 weeks. Very important. This is to reflect on the week you're just finishing. So I do my weekly review on Friday. Most people do. So you can go into the weekend clean with a clear head and a plan for the next week. So I just go through my calendar and Outlook day by day. And how often do you think I come up empty when I do that? Never. I can't remember the last time that it didn't trigger at least one follow-up. Then I look out at my calendar for 2 weeks. And I look at conflicts, things I need to prepare for, anything. I just see what's coming at me for the next 2 weeks. If I have travel coming up, maybe I'll go out 3 weeks. That's the calendar review. Okay, step 3. Process my inboxes to 0. So this would be my email inbox, my Wunderlist inbox, and I go through and decide what, if anything, I'm going to do with all the items in my inbox. So the tip there is if you go into your weekly review with 400 emails in your inbox, you're going to spend your whole hour and more processing your inbox. That's not the point of the weekly review. So you want to try to go into it as clean as you can. Okay? Step 4 is review your project list and ensure each project has a next action or more. This is key. Your projects will stall out unless you keep them moving forward. And the way you keep them moving forward is by asking, what's the next action? Things stall out at our company all the time. Things I'm trying to move forward on just peter out in the midst of the whirlwind. So once a week, you're looking at every project. And the way I do that is I click on the hyperlink. And if nothing shows up, there's 2 things I need to do. Call the project done because I met the desired outcome, or think of more next actions. Good? Okay, next is step 5, review waiting for list and one-on-ones. One-on-ones is a form of waiting for. So I scan through my waiting for list and I ping people that haven't responded to anything that I've delegated. And 2 more steps. Step 6, review all other context lists and basically clean them up. So it's review other context lists and clean them up. You will find things on there that you've completed and didn't check off. You'll find things that you thought you wanted to take action on but are really a someday maybe because you're just never going to get to it or not in the foreseeable future. It's basically the time to go through your in the car list, at computer, and just reset things for the coming week. All right, last step is review someday maybe. So go through your someday maybe list and decide if it's time to promote anything to action and make it a project or make it a next action. And we'll sort by, puts them in order. All right, good? Okay, a quick check for understanding, and then I'll wrap. So, step 1, capture. We capture into what? Inbox. Is Wunderlist your only inbox? No, you have one in your email client. You should carry around a red folder for receipts and cocktail napkin items. Whatever, red folder. Should have about 3 inboxes. But everything gets captured, not in your head, into an inbox. Process, how do we process? In the bathroom. Not in the bathroom. We process using the decision tree, the processing workflow. You can find them online if you didn't snap a picture of it. Step 3, organize. We organize our work based on context. Context means what? Location or where you go to take the action. Maybe location, it could be with who you're with, when I'm with Tim, when I'm with Al. Where you do the work. Review. What does review mean? Go through your system, shore it up, do your weekly review once a week for an hour. Mine takes an hour and a half. And do means feeling good about what you're doing and feeling good about what you're not doing, which is the major stress reducer. All right? If you got any questions, as mentioned yesterday, you can find me on Voxer or see me afterwards. Thank you for your time.